The Kalicube Tuesdays. I'm not in Paris. I'm in the south of France. I've moved all of my things out of Paris and into the south of France, and I'm going to go off around the world again. Welcome, Richard. You get the honor of me being incredibly stressed out, having just moved house, which is supposed to be one of the more stressful things in life.
Yep, I just did it myself. So I feel your pain, and I'm still moving in almost 2 months later.
Right, I'm at a friend's house who buys everything he sees at car boot sales, and the house, as you can see behind, is just totally full of all these different things. I would really, really not like to be around when he moves house.
No, you need to do great purging when you move. That's something I learned.
Right.
I read a piece about it actually, and it was very useful. It helps, and there's a couple of guys who I think they've got a podcast as well now who do this.
Brilliant. And don't worry, everybody, we're not going to talk about moving house. We're going to talk about technical and product SEO for news. Richard, we've invited him on. I think it's been about 1.5 years. We've been trying to get you on the show. We finally got you here, and now we're going to pull all this information out of you as though we were a dentist pulling your teeth. Before we do that, here we go. I was looking at the Wall Street Journal. As you skip through, you can see that all the information does not come from Wikipedia. I'm going to start that again because I missed the start. It looks like all of that is Wikipedia, but it isn't. The information in Wikipedia is very different. So Google is now pulling from other places. And when you knowledge panel hop and you click on those different links, you can see all the different relationships. And you can see there we had something that needed to be claimed. As we hop, the queries change. At the top there, you can see that. We've got filter pills for newspaper. That's brilliant. First business kind of style thing where I've seen those. And these are going to be incredibly important. Your mini website on Google. And every time I click on a link, the relationships that you see in the knowledge panel change. Once again, you've got to claim this knowledge panel. Major corporation who aren't doing that work. We can see the founders. That isn't claimable because the person is deceased. You cannot claim a knowledge panel of somebody who's deceased. There are many, 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 many connections, and you can just keep clicking and clicking and clicking all day long. This is research on Google. And we can see that we've just got the awards, we've got the nominations and the awards. And as we hopped, it's added all that extra information. What I love there is that took me, a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
I know so much about the company, the founders, the different people around it, the awards and the nominations. I've seen those filter pills. I've got more options with those filter pills to navigate around on my mini website on Google to understand more about. I've got no need to visit the website. And in fact, the website probably doesn't explain it quite as well as Google does, because the website doesn't explain the relation of the Wall Street Journal with all of the parent organizations, the founders, and so on and so forth in such a quick and simple manner.
Yeah. There's a lot there. Well done, Jason. You really do this well. We probably should talk afterwards. There was a point a few years back where I spent some time with a colleague claiming some stuff, updating some stuff around knowledge panel, specifically around the Wall Street Journal, and there's a bunch of work. But it's like I just haven't been able to even get near that work.
Right. I mean, it's a nuts job. I think people underestimate it. Small companies underestimate the importance, and big companies underestimate the amount they actually need to manage. And as you said, you give it a go, and then a couple of years down the line, a lot of the work you've done has disappeared because Google's updated and evolved. Oh, I forgot to sing the song. Hello, and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Richard Nazarewicz.
That's wonderful. I was waiting for that. And it's going to be my ringtone.
I almost forgot. I get overexcited because I really love doing that video, because knowledge panel hopping is a really fun game, but it's also incredibly informative about how Google's thinking about all this, how much it's understood, and how much work we all have to do, and we haven't realized it yet.
And you missed a little bit. You could have gone down the road of the other brands like Market Watch and Barron's, FN, PE News, Mansion Global. So those should be linking up. And we have a new acquisition. We have a new product brand on board, Investors, IBD. So be interesting to see how their knowledge panel, if at all, changes and incorporates itself.
No, it is incredibly interesting, and a lot of people think, well, once Wikipedia is updated and somebody at Wikipedia will update it for us, we don't need to go in and do it, or even if we do, we would expect that to update it. We saw right at the beginning that a lot of the data is no longer from Wikipedia, so you can't just rely on that. A major corporation can't rely on it, and for a smaller corporation, it's not even worth trying for. And I'm really fighting that corner of saying, let's learn to educate Google, manage Google, as it lets go of the walking stick, as it were, that is Wikipedia, because it needs us to help it. We need to be proactive. And I just thought that was wonderful because there's so much information. And in 2 minutes, I've suddenly learned all about the company and its history and the relationships. And as you say, the relationships change over time. Google needs to keep up with that. It's a phenomenally big job. But we shouldn't be talking about this. That's not the topic for today. And if anyone's interested in knowledge panels and brand SERPs today, after this show at 1800 hours CET Paris, we're having an Ask Me Anything. You need to join the brand SERP and knowledge panel support group on Facebook if you want to get involved in that. Please do come along. I share loads and loads of stuff that I don't share publicly. And I've got a real treat today. But today we're talking about technical product SEO for news, because you know absolutely loads about it, and I know next to nothing.
Well, that's not true, and but there are truths in that statement. But so it's very vast and complex, and I do like the stuff that Barry puts together. Adams, I'm very much a voyeur online.
Adams, yeah, brilliant.
I like the way he puts stuff together and really communicates that well. There's many others in the field. You know, Lily does a wonderful job, and I was very close to talking to you, by the way, Jason. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. So I think it was the last PubCon they ran, and you were just there. Okay. And I think it might have been Lily who actually started talking to you, and then I was snatched off, and then I almost got you, but next time.
Definitely next time.
It's a very vast. You can imagine, if you can imagine what it is that there's lots of moving parts, lots of different teams. So looking at brand SERPs, for instance, that's not nothing. That is something we should be addressing and monitoring ongoing. The last couple of times it's been flagged to me has come from a marketing channel.
Right. Enough. Yes. And I've become more of a brand person and a marketing person than an SEO. I've moved away from SEO towards marketing and branding. And it is true that SEOs don't consider this to be part of their portfolio.
No, they don't. I do, but I just don't get to it because I'm now, especially in a product role, it's like I'm looking at strategic stuff and trying to work out, put out fires, if you like, and messaging around Google updates, and there's lots of things to do around there. And there's loads of things, we do. And there's lots of things we have to work on at different times and build roadmaps out and, build case studies for why we need to build roadmaps up and we have to wait things.
You work specifically for the Wall Street Journal. Does your work expand upwards to the parent companies, or is it really, I was going to say just, but it's not just because the Wall Street Journal is massive.
It's a big role. So there's a team in there run by a really great guy, colleague of mine, Ed, who runs an editorial SEO team. They also do some products and other work in there, and I engage with them. And the same in Barron's group, if you like. But yes, I spend the bulk of my sort of tenure so far, which is over my 6th year here, working for dedicated to the Wall Street Journal. So I really got to know the products inside out, the different stacks and the multiple different stacks and different templates and different parts and different engines and learning how all that kind of niches together. And then working with some very niche Google products that people sometimes ask me about, like paywalling and how does that work? And
okay, let's start with that. I'm interested. Paywalling. I would imagine Google just crawls the bit it can see, then it doesn't see anything else, so it's got very thin content, so nothing ever ranks.
That's how it used to be.
Right, but not anymore.
No, and I feel we were very pivotal in that changing. Actually, when I started, we were going through that process of not having first click free, and moving to a proprietary paywall, which we have in place, which is run by some very smart people. Can't even begin to explain how they build out our logic for paywalling and the propensity model, but it's super smart and it's very fair. So what it does now, there is something called flexible sampling. I don't want to crush a lot of consultants' time here, but there is stuff that you can put into place where you're exposing a snippet to the user, and you're by terms of some markup and some code that's implemented, Google is able to read the whole content.
So is that adding schema markup to show it the entire content, or is it?
There is some schema markup involved. There's a div involved. There's some there's I don't want to expose too much, but there's a lot of different moving pieces that were standardized by Google, and it is documented.
Okay, so I mean, the conclusion is if you put the right code in place without going into the details, people need to research that themselves. You can get Google to see the entire lot, then the person visits the page, they get the paywall, and so you're not being disadvantaged, which is what I had the impression. I was thinking, how is this paywall ranking?
It was like that. Like if we go back 5 years ago, it was like that, and it was and then there was wording around. We were working to optimize a snippet. Which was bananas. So then there was like arguments. People were saying we don't want this section to be paywall because it's what's in place now is very fair, and Google gets to crawl an index just like any other article if it's set up correctly.
Right.
And that's not been impacted by any updates that I know of. It's just in place and it just works. In our case, Google will flag it with us if there's an indexing problem with paywall content, and I've had that happen. And there may be something deployed that may impact that, and it was just an oversight. But that's not happened very much.
Right. Okay. And what's your? I mean, now moving on to the big thing of today is what's your experience been with Discover? Because that's this huge thing with kind of Google pushing content towards me because it thinks I might be interested. It's all in real time. The paywall must be a huge problem there.
No, that content is again. That content is again. For how I just explained, it's ingested a certain way. It tends to render in AMP format, but it's crawled and indexed the same way. And so that content comes from. You can set up a feed, or it can scour your site, and then obviously the mechanics. I don't think I need to do a discovery session maybe on the mechanics of how it's an algorithm that generates content based upon your individual likings and.
Can I make a suggestion? I think you probably can. So please go ahead. Give me a little overview of your perception of Discover.
Well, in terms of optimization for it, there is the main thing that's been stated around, and it's public, is that you're supposed to put a high resolution image in, otherwise it will grab your logo.
Right.
There is a few other things like make sure that you have a good working title. You're not trying to spam that some way or be kind of do any kind of trickery. The usual stuff that applies to all article, really.
Right.
And write titles that are really explain what your content's all about, and the rest of it is algorithmically driven. There's a lot of I've read a lot of theories out there of things. People can optimize, are offering services to do this. I'm not sure how that will work.
No, I would imagine kind of like the idea of saying, we can absolutely nail this topic, and you become a topical authority, and therefore you are shown to people who are interested in that topic. And it's like a lot of this stuff, they're kind of shooting in the dark and hoping and not really knowing. And we're all in that situation with what's going on with Discover.
Yeah, so my Discover field is populated with a lot of nerdy SEO stuff, a bit of what's going back home in Blighty, and I'm going to just put it out there and probably start a football war, a soccer war as they call it here in sunny New Jersey, which is, I get a lot of Chelsea information because I'm a big Chelsea fan. So.
I get loads of Liverpool information because I've got a red shirt. Google's really smart. It's seen the red shirt. It thinks Liverpool, so it sends me Liverpool.
We do this again. I'll go in full garb,
By the way, that's a joke. Google hasn't analysed my red shirt. I actually do support Liverpool kind of a little bit because I went to university.
So when Google lens you, will it find the shirt or will it make the
I reckon if you did a Google lens on me now, it would probably figure out, except for the love written behind me here.
Right. And it will find a store that I can buy that in near me because I have been using it. It's pretty good.
The what, sorry?
Like when I've done Google Lens on things recently, that love sign behind you, it will probably find a store locally that sells it.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, but that's not the topic for today. But just really quickly, how well does it work? Because I've never really tried it.
It's pretty good. I mean, it misfires a few times, and I think they're still working on it. But I think it's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Right. But brilliant. Back to what we were talking about is in fact what my comment was actually, now I realize, more a marketing comment about Google Discover, because when you click on the article, you then hit a paywall. And from a marketing perspective, I would have thought that search results would be relatively better converters than a Discover, where I would be frustrated because Discover is something that's been offered to me as opposed to something I was searching for.
Yeah, so that would, I probably should have done my homework here because I don't know what the current.
I'm sorry.
No, it's an internal thing. It's like what our internal team of data, the data scientists, engineers who work on our paywall logic. They're constantly tweaking and changing things in the propensity model that we have in place, which is on awards and things.
Yeah.
So they will probably, I would imagine, use once you get to the AMP page and you're being served that AMP page, there will be some propensity in place there to whether you get that article or not.
Good. Sorry, can you just really briefly explain what a propensity model is? Because I don't really know.
Well, I don't believe that for a start, but it's basically gauging whether you're going to, in the most simplest terms, whether you're going to sign up or not immediately, whether you'd be like someone who actually go and sign up, or maybe you would like to have some more content delivered to you. Maybe you get 2 or 3. So it's not really fixed. Like we'll give you 5 URLs this month, and then we're locking it.
Which is why you're saying they're so smart. Is it's the idea that each individual will react differently, and you can calculate how much you need to feed them, as it were, before they convert. And they obviously they're getting it more and more right, and they're using machine learning to figure out which cohort is likely to need more content and which
exactly the audience, the brand, the location. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff there. To be honest with you, it's about time I synced up with that team and had another chat. I've been buried in other teams and dealing with other situations of recent times. So, yeah, but it's super interesting, and it's probably a discussion for another day. Paywalls.
Yeah, okay. Well, back to news. Can you tell me about the Google News Publisher Center? Because I don't even know anything about it.
Oh, I found your glasses.
Sorry, Alexander Rodriguez Silva just said he did a Google Lens on me as I am now. My glasses appeared. So you can now buy my glasses online, and it isn't even the red shirt, which is a pity. But thank you for doing that, Alexander.
Yeah, well.
So back to the Google News Publisher Center. I don't even know what that is.
So it's a product you log into with, just like you log into Search Console for Google products. It's available to all. Now, if you're an e-commerce site and you don't have a newsy part, you probably wouldn't use it. But it's a way for you to create what you call a publication. First of all, you create an organizational structure, then you create your publication, because you may have, like in our instance, multiple publications. So you create publications. And then within that, there's a few ways, they've added a few ways to do it now, but the historical way was to add sections that you want to appear in Google News. Now, this is feeding. I have to explain this almost on a weekly, and I get confused myself now because I like self-doubt, especially when people, management ask me, "Are you sure about that?" Those killer words. This is like news.google, so like the news.google.com page, which is the historic, the original Google News page, not the tab, because the tab in SERPs is the same. It's curated from how it crawls and indexes, rather than the feed we supply, which contains the same content, by the way. So we would then go and create a bunch of sections for section fronts, mastheads, some people call them. And if you've got a visual, it's great. And
there we go. No, I've just shared my screen for the people who are listening to audio. I've just gone to news.google.com, and it really is a seriously intricate news feed, which is delightful.
Yes.
But then if I go to google.com and then click on let's do that now.
Yeah, if you Google something, Newsy, I don't know.
Google.com, Google NASA, seeing as that's in the news right now. Whoops. Oh, it's taking me. Sorry. Oh no, I've clicked on the wrong link.
Well, you could probably look at Liverpool.
Oh no. Then we'll have an eye. Oh yeah. Okay. Absolutely, totally different.
Yes.
And this I understand. This for me is a vertical brand SERP. What I would be looking at and saying when you search the brand from my perspective, because that's all I'm interested in. I've searched Nazarewicz, which is a brand, and I'm looking at the news vertical within the web index. But then if I search it within Google News, I'm looking at the information, if I do that now, of information about Nazarewicz from the feed of the different
publications.
Excuse me. Yeah. Please explain.
Well, I mean, that's the crux of it. So that's why this is, as you know, this is historically the original sort of Google News product, and that is set up in Google News Publisher Center. So you don't need to do anything that's really here if you're, especially for larger brands, but because this is all pulled in by when it's discovering, when it's crawling and indexing regular search content, the newsy part, I guess, pulled out into this. But this is quite handy to like earmark stuff or follow things. And
And now, I mean, on the left-hand side, we've got loads of options of different things I might want to look for. Once again, Google trying to say, what journey are you on? Can we help you along that journey of whatever it is you're doing? And even suggest things of where you want to go. Honestly, I feel slightly uncomfortable there. And here I feel very comfortable. That makes me, And there I feel even more comfortable, obviously. Oh, that's a lovely brand, sir. Anyway, back to
so a lot, but just down that page, you go to the top. So for the top stories there at the top, that is what most publishers are trying to optimize for. Even video, there you're seeing video, kind of latest video is popping up more and more as we see. That's an interesting thing to look out for. And at the top, obviously, top stories carousel, video carousel, and then there's top stories itself. I don't know what's like. I don't know if we want to search for something.
Well, in NASA, what they've got is the latest from NASA.gov, which is what you get is when you have a major publication that publishes a great deal, their brand SERP will contain the latest stories, and it will just be from them.
So we can come to the Google News sort of 48-hour cycle, fresh content, if you like, as opposed to evergreen, because that's the whole thing.
Tell me about that. I'm going to stop.
Do you want to just tail off on the Google News thing and then close that door? So Google.
You lead this part.
The Google News Publisher part is so you set up your feeds. There's a way you can let it also scrape. Oh yeah, because you were pronouncing it. You were pronouncing it NASA, not NASA.
Oh right, yeah. Is that wrong?
I think most people say NASA.
Oh, I'm in the south of France. I say NASA. Why? No, you're right. It's NASA. I don't know.
I understand what you mean. So once you set up your publication, and in our case we have several set up, you would set up the different section fronts, and then you can set up in there also other features. You have to upload some logos, some fonts. It asks you to do a bunch of stuff, and then when you submit that. It kind of, I believe now that process is, you used to have to wait months and then get a response back from the Google News team, and they say to you, yes, you're good, or you're going to have to go and do some homework and then resubmit, and it was really annoying. But not also if you've got content that they don't, or you're not chronicling properly, or you're republishing stuff, or you're not setting your no follow links for content. That's sponsored, for instance, that's really important. That's a whole topic. I don't want to get into that. But there are things you can get knocked back for. So you've got to have your house in order, what I call site health and hygiene. So we're big advocate of.
And basically Google is saying you need to be honest. If you're not honest, we'll knock you back. And we're giving you these tools to communicate with us. Play ball and we'll help you out. Don't play ball and we'll not
this
help
is
you
where
out.
I see in critics of Google sometimes, and I see where Google are actually doing a good job. They're actually saying to you guys, this is what you need to do. We want good content. We want to show, want to surface good content in the right way. So moving from there.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish off. So you had the one last topic, which.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can go in different directions. I just had a few notes here, but there's a concept of having. So we've got sitemaps, and there's a good, we created a Google News sitemap, and it is documented. You can go and find it if you look up Google News sitemaps. So they work slightly differently because they have a 48-hour window to index fresh content. They do get crawled a lot more. Like a more rapidly. That's the whole existence, and there's different limitations. So there's 1,000 URL limit there. It's a 48-hour window. So after 48 hours, you should drop. Whatever URLs are 48 hours old into 2 days old into an archive or however you structure your site. And that's a way for Google to discover news content, breaking news.
Which is an interesting point. I mean, because it's a really good example of Google want you to tell it what to prioritize. And so from your perspective, don't just say, Google, you figure it out. Say, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to focus on. This is what's important to my audience. And Google appreciates that it's through sitemaps, through site structure, through what you're actually writing, what you push onto your homepage as special today or whatever. Google wants you to make the decision. And knowledge panels are the same. Google wants you to tell it what you want it to show.
Yes.
And all you need to do is then give it the information and convince it that it's true and that it's actually helpful to your audience.
As upset people get, I see the comments about Google sometimes or other search engines. They are actually trying to do a good job, and they're trying to surface the right content for users and not, have crummy content surfacing or bad content surfacing. And there's lots of parameters around that, whether it's speedily or if it's timely enough, and if it's structured by schemas, super important these days. But yeah, so it sort of the Google News sitemap, that 48-hour window of like as soon as something is breaking news, it goes into that sitemap, including live coverage. And it tells, it's like backing up what may be on the homepage, like it's breaking news. So it's like a mechanism to tell you this was breaking. Hopefully that will get you into top stories, carousel, and into the relevant, based upon the search intent, surface your content.
Right, brilliant. I mean, so especially with the real-time aspect, we can finish with that because we're coming up to the half hour.
I love real-time.
The real-time stuff for you is absolutely critical because the stories, 48 hours is still pretty generous.
Yeah, well, it indexes it well before that. It's it's almost not immediate. So I do like Bing's approach. I work with Fabrice to implement the index now thing, right. And and that had sort of mixed results. But I think the concept of that is very good. I would like to see that happen more. We did some tests with Google with live coverage to ping an API, but that's now all in just a schema, because once you mark it up as live coverage, that's interesting because that goes into the Google News sitemap as well, but it also is marked up in schema as live coverage. And so you're saying, really come back and check me a lot. I mean, in most simplest terms, because that's live coverage, right? So then you get the little lozenge, the live lozenge, and all these things.
Yeah, but I mean, as you're saying, Index Now is brilliant, and Fabrice, I mean, I love the guy to bits, and he's really trying to push it out in Google Earth for the moment, not playing ball. But the live coverage idea of saying to the bot, here's something you need to come back and see regularly. But one of those things, and the foundational thing of what you're saying, is communicating with these machines, and we need to communicate with the bots so they understand what it is they need to be looking at and when. And the real-time issue must be really exciting. I mean, do you not freak out every day because it's going horribly wrong and sometimes it's going horribly wonderfully right?
Do I freak out every day? Quite often, yes. Yeah. So in a way, luckily, I'm no longer sitting in the newsroom itself, which was a great experience. And the team, and the guys like Sean and Ed who run the Barron's Group, and Sean runs the Barron's Group, and Ed runs the WSJ dedicated SEO teams. And they have kind of their audience. One set up more like audience development, one set up more like a classic SEO desk. They're all over this. They're on it all the time, and they're monitoring stuff with a microscope. And I'm just not doing that anymore. I'm looking at the bigger picture, traffic, ebbs and flows, technical audits, trying to crunch that down into tickets. Centralized Jira board is essential for all of this. There's a lot of mechanics involved in this. We have centralized boards that we pull all the things in. We then size stuff, we weight stuff, we create roadmaps, we try. Then we have to obviously go and convince teams that this is a good thing to do and why do it. And none of this works unless you get management buy-in.
Right. Sorry, what I just heard, let's assume we've got management buy-in, is that you're producing this kind of prioritized chunk of content or that you bring together both on your homepage, then pushing out to the Google News feed and pushing to whatever is live now. I can't remember what the term was, but you've got this massive algorithm that's trying to push the content that is both going to please your users who are already on the site, but also feed Google so that it can present you to its users when they're searching around a news topic.
Well, to be honest with you, we publish on it. The publishing happens on an editorial level. That they're the people. But
you're prioritizing.
I'm not. That's. I'm nothing to do with what content goes out. That's not my job, and nor should it be.
Yeah,
it'll be very dangerous.
Your job is simply to make sure that Google knows what's out there, what you guys are pushing through.
That's the team. So the SEO editorial teams make sure that happens. So they make sure they're watching all that mechanisms. I get more involved in when something breaks, or if something is not functioning, or we're just trying to work out what's going on a larger scale, like with all the Google updates that have just been serially dropping. And we've seen a mixed bag of traffic around that. And I'm watching everyone's notes closely about their statistical reports and all this stuff, and we do our own. And that's the kind of stuff I kind of monitor when I say on a more macro level.
Right. Okay. I've
misunderstood. Day-to-day, what's going out in terms of a story for WSJ, I don't get involved in that at all. And there are smarter and better people in those teams that do that.
Brilliant. Okay, well, absolutely perfect. That was absolutely brilliant. And what I love, from my perspective, is the Google updates. I hadn't even noticed because in brand SERP world, the updates are completely in a different sphere, and depending on how you built it, tends not to affect me too much in terms of what I'm doing. But that's by the by. Thank you so much, Richard. That was brilliant. I love chatting with you. I love the information you shared. I didn't know any of that, so this was all news to me. That's my funny joke for the day. We can introduce next week's guest. Next week, we've got Mickie Kennedy, how to make press release marketing work for you. I'm really keen to hear all about that because press releases always seem to me to be, how can we put it, ineffective, pushing content out, trying to kind of please the world. If I can make that work for me, I'm definitely on board. Could you pass the baton, please, Richard?
Yes, I absolutely will. And I'm looking forward to this myself, to be honest with you. I'm passing the baton on to Mickie Kennedy. Mickie, I'm looking forward to your session next week.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That was awesome. Thank you for Anton in the background doing all the techie stuff. Quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Richard. It was delightful. Thank you, everyone.
Love it. Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Kalicube. It's all about your brand SERP.